Sagittarius. It's going to happen fast and it will be decisive in your life this June weekend. Can you feel it? There's a flicker within you. Something ancient, something sacred, that's been growing stronger these past few days. You may have dismissed it as restlessness, or passed it off as your usual longing for adventure. But deep down, you know this time it's different. The universe is whispering your name. And it's not just calling you forward. It's calling you home, to yourself. You've always carried a fire, a bold and fearless spark that sees beyond borders and believes in something more. But now that fire is preparing to ignite something far bigger than you've imagined. A moment is approaching, fast, undeniable, and deeply personal. You won't see it coming in the way you expect, but once it arrives, nothing will ever feel the same again. This message isn't for everyone. It's for those Sagittarians who felt the shift in the wind, who've sensed a quiet urgency rising, who've looked at the sky lately and thought, something is about to change. And you're right. Before we go deeper, take a breath with me. Make space in your heart for what's to come. And if this message already speaks to something inside you, then like, share, or subscribe to join our soul-aligned family here at Zodiac Wisdom. Because this isn't just another reading. This is your awakening. Gate 1. When the door opens without knocking. Sagittarius, you were born with an inner compass. A knowing that you are not meant to stay still for long. You thrive on forward motion, driven not only by a thirst for experience, but by a deep belief that something greater is always waiting just beyond the horizon. And now something is waiting. This weekend a door will open, but it won't knock first. It will come quietly, disguised as a coincidence, a conversation, a fleeting moment you almost overlook. It may be a message from someone unexpected, a gut feeling that says, say yes, even if it doesn't make sense yet. It may come in the form of a job offer, a creative project, or an intuitive nudge that says it's time to leave what no longer aligns. The question is, will you recognize the invitation when it arrives? You see, Sagittarius, the universe speaks your language. Signs, symbols, serendipities. But to receive them, you must slow down just long enough to feel. You must meet your fire with stillness. That's when clarity lands. That's when opportunities that others miss will reveal themselves to you as stepping stones toward your next great leap. I want you to think back to a time when you said yes to something that changed your life. Did it begin with certainty? Or did it begin with a spark, an impulse, a pull, a whisper from within? This weekend will mirror that moment. And this time it won't take years to unfold. The transformation will be swift, and it will demand your full attention. One woman I once guided, a Sagittarius born under the December sky, found herself at a crossroads in her career. She'd been feeling unseen, underused, and yet she hesitated to leap. Then out of nowhere, she was invited to a retreat she hadn't planned for. She almost said no, but something in her spine said go. That retreat led to a new business partner, a new career, and ultimately a new life. What looked like a detour was actually destiny. Sagittarius, this is your moment like that. What's different now is that you are more self-aware. You are no longer chasing experiences just to feel alive. You are seeking alignment. And alignment doesn't come from effort. It comes from attunement. From listening to what the world reflects back to you when you're quiet enough to see clearly. This weekend's shift may revolve around your career, especially if you've been sensing stagnation or an inner voice saying, there's more for me than this. And you're right, there is. But the opportunity will not look the way your mind expects. It will feel wild, strange, perhaps even too big. And that's exactly how you'll know it's meant for you. Here's the hard truth, Sagittarius. Not everyone sees the opening when it appears. Not because it's not there, but because fear convinces them to wait. Wait for a sign that feels safer, more obvious. But the universe doesn't speak through fear. It speaks through curiosity, instinct, and courage. You already have these gifts within you. So when the invitation comes, I ask you this. Will you walk through that door? Even if it changes everything? Even if it requires letting go of a version of yourself you've outgrown? Because to step into your future, you must release what kept you safe in the past. The identity that says, I'm still figuring things out, must now transform into, I am ready to live what I've been preparing for. The fire inside you isn't just for wandering, it's for awakening. And it's awakening now. Gate 2. The end was never a failure, it was a reroute. Sagittarius, let's talk about endings. You've always been the sign of beginnings. New journeys, new philosophies, new loves, new places. But what few understand about your fire is that it doesn't just ignite, it also burns away. And sometimes what it burns first is what no longer belongs. Over the past months, you may have felt an inner detachment growing. Perhaps you've noticed certain people pulling away, plans falling through, or dreams that once excited you now feel hollow. You may have even grieved silently, wondering, why is everything slipping away just when I thought I was ready to rise? But here is a truth I need you to hold with both hands. Not every ending is a punishment. Some are redirections. I remember a Sagittarius man in his early 40s, a teacher, loyal to his school, his community, and his students. He gave his heart to his work. One day, out of nowhere, the school downsized and his position was eliminated. He was devastated. For weeks he spiraled, questioning his worth. But that loss gave him space to rest for the first time in years. And in that space, a dream he had buried long ago came back, to open his own nature-based learning center. Within a year, he wasn't just employed, he was thriving. And more importantly, he was finally doing something that lit up his soul, not just fulfilling someone else's mission. Sagittarius, the same principle applies to you. You may be going through a quiet farewell right now. It might not be loud or dramatic. Maybe it's just a feeling that you've outgrown a relationship, a job, a lifestyle, or even a belief system. That's sacred. That's the beginning of your realignment. You don't need to have all the answers today, but you do need to honor the discomfort. Let it speak. Let it guide you. Endings, especially for a sign like yours, feel suffocating. You were not designed to be caged. But sometimes the very structures you built to feel safe, routines, roles, relationships, become the very things that keep you small. And here's the most Sagittarius thing I could tell you. The end of this chapter is not about loss. It's about expansion. You are being stretched into a new version of yourself. One that no longer compromises to fit in. One that doesn't tolerate being misunderstood. One that doesn't betray its own spirit for the sake of keeping the peace. Do you feel it? The friendships you once clung to, that now feel like empty echoes. The job that gives you a paycheck but not a pulse. The relationship that taught you lessons but now teaches you only silence. All of these may be quietly asking to be released. And as painful as it may feel, there is grace in letting go. Because what waits on the other side is not the void. It's the wild, and you were born to run free within it. One of the most transformative traits of Sagittarius is the ability to find truth in the ashes. You don't just survive loss, you extract wisdom from it. And that wisdom becomes your new compass. So if you're standing in the middle of an ending right now, I want you to breathe and remind yourself, this is not a collapse. It's a recreation. The job loss, the heartbreak, the move, the friendship fading out, the unexpected silence. None of it is meant to break you. It's meant to make room. Make room for deeper love. For work that honors your spirit. For friends who see you, not just talk at you. For peace that doesn't require exhaustion. The Sagittarius who's walking into the next season of life is more powerful, more discerning, and more alive than ever before. Because they've been through the fire, and they've seen what truly matters. Let this ending be the most beautiful beginning of all. Gate 3. The love that speaks without words. Sagittarius, there's a kind of love that doesn't arrive with fireworks or grand gestures. It doesn't come wearing perfection or making promises it can't keep. Instead, it shows up quietly, in a moment of stillness, as if the universe had always been preparing you for it. This is the kind of love your soul recognizes, not with your eyes but with your energy. And for you, dear Sagittarius, that love is closer than you think. For years, you may have believed that love was something to be chased, to be found in distant places or between the pages of an epic story. You searched in faces in foreign lands, hoping to meet someone who mirrored your vastness, your fire, your hunger for truth. But the love your soul is truly calling in now is different. It's a love that meets you not in the thrill of the beginning, but in the depth of recognition. A connection that doesn't demand you shrink or perform, but instead says, be all of who you are. I'll meet you there. I want to share the story of a Sagittarius woman in her late 30s who had spent most of her life chasing big, beautiful, burning loves. They came with intensity but often left with disappointment. Then during a quiet weekend retreat, where she wasn't looking for anyone, She met someone who didn't try to impress her. He just listened. He saw her. He stayed. First, she dismissed it. It didn't feel like the fireworks she was used to. But with time, she realized this wasn't chemistry. It was connection. It was the love she didn't know she needed. Sagittarius, you're entering a season where your heart is ready for spiritual partnership. Not just romance, but resonance. A love that feels like home. And whether you're already in a relationship or opening yourself to one, what matters now is depth, not drama. Shared vision, not shared fear. Emotional freedom, not obligation. You may find yourself drawn to people who speak to your soul in ways that bypass language. You may feel sudden comfort in someone's presence, as if you've known them for lifetimes. Or you may reconnect with someone from your past, only to discover you're both entirely different people now, aligned in ways you never were before. These aren't coincidences. They're soul signals. Spiritual love doesn't always look like you imagined. It's not always neat nor instantly easy. Sometimes it requires unlearning everything you thought love was supposed to be. But when it arrives, it brings peace. Not the absence of challenge, but the presence of mutual growth. It feels safe even when life is uncertain. It asks you to stay not out of duty, but out of devotion. And perhaps most powerfully, it mirrors your own self-love. Because in this moment of awakening, Sagittarius, the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with your own spirit. Do you honor your voice? Do you listen to your intuition? Do you forgive your past self and welcome the you that's emerging? Because the partner you seek is often waiting on the other side of your self-acceptance. So if your heart has felt tender lately, or you've noticed dreams of people long gone, or conversations that seem to strike a chord too deep to explain, pay attention. The soul is speaking, and it's guiding you toward connection, not just with another person, but with the divine rhythm that orchestrates all true love stories. There's someone or something drawing closer to you, and it will feel like nothing you've ever experienced before. Not because it's new, but because this time you are ready to receive it. And when you do, it will change the way you love forever. Gate 4. The moment you remember who you really are. There comes a moment in every seeker's life when the questions begin to quiet, when the chase begins to fade, and the heart, finally, becomes still enough to hear what has always been true. For you, Sagittarius, that moment is near. You've wandered far across landscapes, relationships, belief systems. You've sought wisdom in books, in strangers' eyes, in silence under the stars. And in each search, there was always a feeling that something was missing, that you were on the edge of a great discovery just out of reach. What you didn't know is that the thing you've been seeking has been inside you all along. This is not a cliché. It is an ancient truth. What's awakening now is not a new identity, but the return of your original one. The version of you that existed before doubt, before the world told you to dim your flame. A Sagittarius who remembers that joy is not earned through perfection, but is a birthright. A Sagittarius who doesn't need to prove their worth by how much they do, give, or achieve, but who understands that presence alone is power. This weekend, something will shift within you. Not because of a dramatic event, but because your spirit is ready. It's ready to shed what no longer fits, to stop negotiating your peace, to stop apologizing for your fire. You may feel it in your chest, a lightness or a sense that something heavy has been lifted. You may wake up and feel oddly calm, or cry without knowing why, or laugh at something small with a joy that feels strangely familiar. These are not random feelings. They are signs that the soul is returning to its rightful place in your life. There is comfort that comes when we stop pretending we don't know, when we stop performing, when we stop postponing the truth of who we are. And the truth is, Sagittarius, you are a soul built for freedom. Not just physical but spiritual. You were never meant to walk a straight path. Your soul takes the long way on purpose, because it understands that detours bring wisdom, and breakdowns bring breakthroughs. I once worked with a Sagittarius elder in her 70s who had lived an entire life of service, travel, and caring for others. But late in life, she felt a strange emptiness. Despite the stories, the adventures, the achievements. One morning, while meditating by the sea, she heard an inner voice that said, "Everything you've done was beautiful, but now it's time to return to yourself." That one sentence became her new prayer. She began painting again, singing again, remembering pieces of herself she had placed on hold. And in that quiet return, She found peace more powerful than anything she'd ever searched for on the outside. You don't need to reach the end of your life to have that clarity, Sagittarius. You're being offered it now. The universe isn't just shifting things around you. It's shifting things within you. Your emotional body is being soothed. Your mental noise is being silenced. Your spiritual channel is being cleared. This is why you've been sensing so much lately. Feeling more, dreaming deeper, and remembering things you thought were long forgotten. The veil is thinner now, and what's coming through is not fear. It's remembrance. The comfort you've been craving does not lie in control, in answers, or in making everything make sense. It lives in surrender. And in surrender you will find power. Not the kind that dominates or forces, but the kind that radiates from the core of your being like a quiet, unwavering flame. So if you felt weary, this is your rest. If you felt lost, this is your direction. If you felt fragmented, this is your return. And if you've ever wondered when your soul would finally feel home, the answer, Sagittarius, is now. Conclusion: your time is not coming, it's here. Sagittarius, you've traveled far in this reading, but more than that, you've traveled far in your becoming. From the stirring whispers of unseen opportunity to the quiet heartbreak of necessary endings. From the sacred pull of soul connection to the deep, unshakable comfort of spiritual return. You've crossed a threshold. You've stepped into a new frequency. What lies ahead of you now is not chaos but alignment. What once felt distant, joy, love, direction, is now approaching at full speed. And the question is no longer if you're ready. It's whether you're willing to accept the truth that your time is no longer coming. It's already here. The opportunities showing up this weekend won't be random. The signs you feel in your body, the clarity in your thoughts, the people who suddenly reappear, none of it is coincidence. All of it has been orchestrated for this exact version of you. Wiser, more awake, more willing to choose yourself. You are not here to shrink or wait for permission. You are here to rise. And in doing so, you become a beacon for others who are still searching. You show them what's possible when someone listens to their intuition and follows it without apology. So I leave you with this, Sagittarius. Trust what's arriving. Don't run from the intensity, run toward it. Say yes to what feels sacred, even if it's unfamiliar. Let your fire guide you, not to escape, but to illuminate the life you were always meant to live. If this message stirred something inside you, if your soul whispered yes, as you read these words, then don't keep that energy to yourself. Share this with someone you love. Leave a comment to anchor your intention. And subscribe to Zodiac Wisdom so we can walk this unfolding journey together. Moment by moment, sign by sign, soul by soul. Because this isn't just a forecast. It's a homecoming.